You are listening to the Grand Canyon TV audio tour for the El Tovar Hotel. The El Tovar Hotel is regarded as the finest restaurant at the Grand Canyon South Rim. As you listen to this, somebody might want to start to look up the phone number, as it can be difficult to get reservations, as this hotel is a popular dining location. I'm going to start the audio tour from the outside of the hotel. If you walk towards the canyon, away from the entrance to the hotel, you will notice a kiosk from the National Park Service, and this is kind of in between El Tovar Hotel and the Hopi House. I'm going to read this kiosk, so feel free to look around and explore, and after I finish describing the history on this kiosk, I will then begin to describe the inside of the hotel lobby, which is open to the public. So make your way over to the sign, the kiosk. Also imagine, as you are walking around here, that it wasn't until they built a railroad up to the south rim of the Grand Canyon that they were able to even build such a luxury hotel. So that's what the El Tovar Hotel was all about at the time it opened in 1905. Remember, this is before airplanes are a regular thing. Our first Wright brothers airplane is 1903. They're building this in 1904, opening it in 1905. Horseless carriages, aka cars, are also not much of a thing when this hotel opens. There are horse-drawn carriages back then. It was the peak of luxury in the middle of nowhere. It cost about $250,000 to build back then. Looking at the hotel, you can see it's made of the local Kaibab limestone, and the wood is said to be Oregon pine, which I'm guessing the ponderosas in the area weren't as long or as big as they needed to build this 100-room hotel. Also note that this hotel ended up putting the Grandview Hotel out of business. Grandview was the first hotel at the Grand Canyon. However, when customers were presented with a cheaper option of riding a train, which was also a faster option, they began to stay at the El Tovar Hotel, or another one I'll talk about later, the Ralph Cameron. The kiosk shows the image of El Tovar in the early days of motorized carriages. So that's not what it looked like right when it opened. The kiosk reads, "The El Tovar was a game changer. Prior to its construction, most Grand Canyon visitors slept in tent accommodations on the South Rim," which is a bit ironic because in the past few years we've seen tent hotels, aka glamping resorts, like Under Canvas or Clear Sky, pop up in the private lands just south of the South Rim. The kiosk continues. Opening to great fanfare on January 14th, 1905, the hotel catered to a wealthy clientele. Imagine guests' delight upon finding a music room, a solarium, a billiard hall, an underground grotto where men played a friendly game of cards, a barber shop, 2 roof gardens, an art room, a gift shop, for $4.50 and upwards a night. Guests were treated to finely decorated rooms with both hot and cold running water. Also worth mentioning, all water was originally brought in by the train, all the way from the Hotel del Rio, 120 miles away, as were much of the supplies used to build the hotel. Fresh fruit and vegetables were grown in greenhouses. They even milked their own cows for fresh milk. The kiosk also reads, on May 24th, 1902, the local newspaper in Flagstaff reported this: "The Santa Fe is going to build the most expensive hotel at Grand Canyon. The idea of the architecture is to bring the building into harmony with the wonderful scenery of the canyon, rather than to put a blot upon its beauty by the erection of a commercial structure." Consider the timeline here. The Spanish arrive as the first known non-Native Americans to the canyon in 1540. And El Tovar comes from Pedro de Tovar, who was one of these Spanish soldiers. Those expeditions in 1540 were led by Coronado. Coronado and Pedro de Tovar didn't even come to see the canyon. They heard about it and they're like, meh, maybe you have somebody traveling with you, or maybe someone who didn't come who was like, meh. So those guys come in 1540. John Wesley Powell explores Grand Canyon by river in 1869. Powell invites the painter Thomas Moran on expedition starting in 1873. The Santa Fe Railroad begins passing through the town of Flagstaff from Chicago on its way to Los Angeles. It passes through Flagstaff in 1882, and eventually a spur of that railroad will go from Williams and dead end at the south rim of the Grand Canyon. That spur is opened and running in 1901. So now you can imagine by 1902, they were beginning to plan the El Tovar Hotel. And remember, that's pre-airplanes. They began planning this before airplanes even existed. So all of these events led to the Santa Fe Railroad Company, aka the Fred Harvey Company, to build a 100-room hotel right on the south rim of the Grand Canyon. One of the most famous early guests was Teddy Roosevelt. Silent film star Douglas Fairbanks stayed at the El Tovar in 1917. Gerald Ford, Herbert Hoover, George H.W. Bush, Dwight Eisenhower, Calvin Coolidge, and Bill Clinton have stayed here. And if you're still standing outside, you will see the top floor has a balcony. That is the presidential suite. The story is that the architect designed most of the rooms not to have a view of the canyon. He wanted people to have the desire to get up and get outside. However, that presidential suite up top there does have a balcony. And that is where Douglas Fairbanks, silent movie star, famously performed his stunts while filming a movie called A Modern Musketeer. And fun fact, A Modern Musketeer is in the public domain. You guys can watch this movie if you go to the Grand Canyon TV YouTube channel. I have the full movie in 4K uploaded there. A Modern Musketeer starring Douglas Fairbanks. A couple years after that movie came out, we saw the first story of Zorro. Zorro became a character many say was inspired by Douglas Fairbanks in A Modern Musketeer. And the creator of Batman says that Batman was inspired by Zorro. So it all possibly traces back to a little movie that was shot at El Tovar Hotel in 1917. If it weren't for El Tovar, we might not even have Batman. Now, before we move to the interior, another famous movie was filmed at El Tovar, and that movie was called National Lampoon's Vacation. Yes, if you are standing by this kiosk between the Hopi House and the El Tovar, this is where Clark Griswold parks the big green station wagon. He goes inside trying to cash a check, and they won't let him. He gets angry. He bangs his fist on the counter, and the old cash register pops open. He grabs all the money, runs outside, finds his family standing on the edge of the canyon right by that limestone wall at the edge of the canyon right there. And this is where the family's enjoying the canyon. He comedically runs up and he says, "Yo, we gotta go." And the family's like, "But don't you want to look at the Grand Canyon?" He's like, all right, we gotta go. And if you want to pull up a clip of that so you can line up a photo with your family in the same exact location, that also is going to be on the GrandCanyonTV YouTube channel. Other famous guests that have stayed here include Albert Einstein, Liz Taylor, Neil Young loved to stay here. I've noticed he's been staying at a different location. I'm not going to blow up his spot, but Neil Young comes to Grand Canyon at least once a year. A funny story about Paul McCartney, who stayed at El Tovar Hotel. A Grand Canyon worker told me that a man was playing the piano in the El Tovar upstairs lobby one night. It was getting late. Another guest complained about the noise. And so some El Tovar employee had to walk up to Sir Paul McCartney and ask him to stop playing the piano. You could not pay me any amount of money in the world to tell Paul McCartney to stop making music. All right, now we are ready to head inside of the El Tovar Hotel. So you can make your way up those stairs through the big wooden doors. And if you step inside, I'm going to describe a few things here. Immediately, you will see the beautiful woodwork of these early 20th century builders. Along the upper walls are taxidermic heads of 5 mule deer bucks, 2 elk bulls, 1 American bison, 1 pronghorn antelope, 1 javelina, and 2 animals that have never been found at the Grand Canyon, moose. All those other ones, you will find them around. And El Tovar, the wall by the canyon back there, that is a great place to spot the bighorn sheep. Take a moment to enjoy this pine tree lobby, and you will also see a Thomas Moran painting high above the door you just walked in. Remember, Thomas Moran, there is a viewpoint called Moran Point at the Grand Canyon. This painting that is above the entrance on the inside of the El Tovar Hotel is titled Grand Canyon of the Colorado, and its date reads 1904. Remember, the El Tovar Hotel opened to the public in 1905. It's likely that the Fred Harvey Company might have commissioned Moran to paint this painting, knowing that they'd display it in the hotel. In 2017, I'm going to give you guys an idea of how much a Thomas Moran painting goes for. So you've got a few of these in the El Tovar Hotel. In 2017, a Thomas Moran painting of the Grand Canyon sold for $600,000. So it's easy to say there are millions of dollars of historic oil paintings sitting in this sleepy little hotel lobby. That is, if they're originals. I haven't confirmed that yet. Thomas Moran's paintings are also found in the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., and that Philadelphia art gallery where Rocky Balboa liked to do his leg training. To the right and left of the lobby are gift shops. And if you move towards the fireplace, you will find a model of the type of stagecoaches the Fred Harvey Company used in the pre-horseless carriage days. It's sitting on top of that fireplace. It's made out of metal. Walking forward, you will find the cocktail lounge and the restaurant. So now is also an opportunity you guys can make those reservations for dinner at the El Tovar. Downstairs are the restrooms and ice machines, soda machines. There's a stunning painting. If you are still standing right by the cocktail lounge, there's a stunning painting by Charles H. Pabst called Golden Passage. This painting has been used as the cover of the March-April 2019 issue of the Saturday Evening Post. Some of the paintings in this hotel are in fact for sale. These paintings will be marked, and almost all of the paintings in the cocktail lounge are for sale, with the exception of one titled Rim to Rim by Joshua Bin and The 7 Stages of Drunkenness by William Dean Fawcett. The plaque for the 7 Stages of Drunkenness reads, in the 1940s, Fred Harvey architect Mary Jane Coulter commissioned artist William Dean Fawcett to depict cowboys of the Wild West in various stages of inebriation. The original paintings hung in the bar of the El Tovar Hotel in Grand Canyon National Park, and the images graced Fred Harvey menus throughout the Southwest. Definitely take a look at those inside the cocktail lounge. Pretty funny. Now, if you're not a hotel guest, I can't encourage you to go much further in the hotel. Yet, if you head back out to the main lobby, you will see the staircase that goes downstairs, it goes upstairs. The staircase leading upstairs, there is an image of El Tovar's architect, Charles F. Whittlesey. And there's also a painting going up the stairs of Fred Harvey himself, and there's a huge Thomas Moran up that staircase as well. The plaque about the architect reads, El Tovar Hotel opened on January 14th, 1905. Charles Whittlesey became an architect for the Santa Fe Railroad in 1900 at the age of 33. Inspired by Louis Sullivan, an innovative architect from Chicago, Whittlesey designed Santa Fe stations to resemble missions and pueblos of the Southwest. El Tovar was styled as a European hunting lodge, sharing designed elements from his home in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Additionally, Whittlesey had a profound and lasting influence in pioneering newly developed construction techniques using reinforced concrete. Now, just before working on El Tovar Hotel, Whittlesey had designed the Santa Fe Railroad Depot in Berkeley, California. That was 1903. He then designed the Reardon family homes in Flagstaff in 1904, today known as the Reardon Mansion State Historic Park. It's that park right on the edge of NAU, kind of close to Sprouts Bookman's and the NAU campus. And I imagine that is where he really learned to work with pines. I hope you enjoyed this audio tour. The restaurant in El Tovar, like I said, it's considered one of the finest restaurants at the South Rim. So do make your reservations in advance. You can also get hot drinks or hard drinks from that cocktail lounge, even if the restaurant is all booked up or closed. As always, I'm your host, Crocky Meshkin, and this Grand Canyon audio tour is brought to you by Clothing of the Gods. If you guys are Grand Canyon fanatics and you're looking for some t-shirts, stickers, the shirts are all made out of 100% natural fabrics, go to clothingofthegods.com.